Now I would like to ask you for a favor. Close your eyes and imagine a normal daytime. You wake up, walk toward the kitchen, and open your cupboard, but it feels like something is missing. There is no honey, no fruit, no coffee, and they don't even have the chocolate that we all love so much. At first, you might say, yes, that could happen, but after a few minutes, you realize that the problem is not honey. The problem is life itself. Today, I want to talk to you about a very small animal, but one that helps keep the world standing. Bees. Many people see bees only as animals that produce honey, sometimes sting and annoy people. Some people are afraid of bees, and some people even kill them. But the real truth is this: if one day all of these creatures disappeared, humanity would face a massive collapse in a very short time. I am not exaggerating. This is truly very serious. This is not the scenario of a science fiction movie. This is a real danger that scientists have been warning people about for years. Now let's come together. Calmly and slowly, let's imagine this. What would the world be like without bees? First, let's talk about the most important thing. What do bees actually do? Most people say they produce honey, but this is not completely true. Honey is not even one of the most important duties of bees. One of their most important tasks is pollination. This means carrying pollen from the male part of a flower to the female part of another flower. Do you know what would happen if bees did not do this? Plants would not produce fruit, seeds would not form, and new plants would not grow. That is why bees do not mainly produce honey, they produce life. Most of the plants in the world, and most importantly, the foods that humans consume, exist thanks to these creatures. Scientifically speaking, approximately 75% of the food humans consume depends on bees, either directly or indirectly. Isn't this number incredible? That means 3 out of every 4 things on our plate exist thanks to them. Now imagine this. What if one day all of these animals disappeared? If bees disappeared, the first things to be affected would be fruits. But this is not about 1 or 2 fruits becoming scarce. I am talking about almost all fruits disappearing. There would be no orange, which are high in vitamin C, no bananas, which are high in vitamin B, no melons, which are high in vitamin A, and many other fruits that we consume. If there were no fruits, we would experience vitamin deficiencies and eat less healthily. Isn't that truly terrifying? Imagine walking into a market to buy fruit. The fruit section is there, but the shelves are almost empty, or there are only a few fruits available. Fruit prices are extremely high. Isn't that frightening? Even a single apple might take a large portion of your salary. Fruit would no longer be something you consume daily. It would become a luxury food, a food for the rich. And the problem doesn't stop there. The cacao tree depends on bees. If bees disappeared, cacao trees would also disappear. So we wouldn't be able to eat that sweet chocolate we love so much anymore. We wouldn't be able to drink that wonderfully fragrant coffee anymore. Yes, even the chocolate and coffee we consume exist thanks to bees. That drink that keeps you energized in the morning exists because of bees. Without bees, coffee wouldn't exist at all. or it would be extremely expensive and very difficult to access. Imagine this: billions of people waking up in the morning and starting their day without coffee. Now, some of us might think this: okay, fruit is gone, but vegetables still exist. We can survive. Unfortunately, this wouldn't be possible either, because many vegetable species also heavily depend on bees. Zucchini, which is consumed both raw and cooked, needs bees. Cucumber, which adds flavor to salads, needs bees. Pepper, which is used both in cooking and as a spice, needs bees. Sunflower plants need bees, and even most types of tomatoes need bees. If bees completely disappeared, the production of these vegetables would decrease, and some of them would completely disappear. Some vegetables could only be produced in very small amounts. So what could we humans do in this situation? We could try artificial pollination. What does that mean? It means people would go from flower to flower carrying pollen using brush-like tools. Some countries are already doing this today. So what happens when we do that? Food prices become extremely high, fruit and vegetable production becomes very slow, and it can never replace nature. The work that one bee does in a single day is something a human could not accomplish even in weeks, because it is nearly impossible. So even technology can never replace these creatures. Now let's look at an even more important issue. If bees disappeared, not only plants would suffer, animals would also suffer greatly. Because most of the grass and feed plants animals consume also exist thanks to bees. For example, plants like clover depend on bees. If these plants decreased, what problems would we face? Cows would not be able to feed properly. Sheep and goats would also struggle to survive. Animal populations would decrease dramatically. And what would that cause? Meat production would decrease significantly. Dairy products would decrease significantly. Even eggs, a major protein source, would decrease dramatically. That means animal-based foods would become luxury items. Imagine a family. Before, they could eat meat several times a week. Now they might only be able to eat meat once a month. And this would not only be an economic issue, this would be a social crisis. So far, we have only talked about the food on our tables. Now let's take a look at nature. Bees are the silent workers of nature. No one notices them, but if bees went extinct, the ecosystem would collapse. When bees disappear, plant populations begin to decrease. When plants decrease, insects decrease. When insects decrease, birds decrease. When birds decrease, small predators decrease, and then larger animals. This is a chain reaction, and the first and most important link in this chain is bees. Imagine going to a forest one day, but there are no bird sounds, there are no fragrant flowers on the ground, there are no colors in nature, no beautiful bird songs. Nature is not just a green area, nature is a place full of movement, and bees are one of the most important parts of that movement. Now, many of us have heard a quote attributed to Einstein: If bees disappeared, humans would have 4 years left to live. Whether Einstein actually said this is debatable, but scientists agree on one thing. If bees disappeared, humanity would face an unimaginable and massive crisis. Hunger would begin, food wars would begin, migration would increase dramatically, dangerous chaos would start between countries, because throughout history, many wars have started because of food. So without bees, we would face countless problems. So how are bees disappearing? This is a very important question. First, agricultural chemicals. Chemical pesticides kill bees very quickly. These chemicals end their lives. Second, climate change. Seasons shifting, flowers blooming earlier. Bees are still sleeping or they wake up and find no flowers around. Third, urbanization. Concrete spreads and flower-filled areas slowly disappear. Bees can no longer feed. Fourth, monoculture farming. Huge fields with only one type of plant. For bees, this is a desert. So what is the result? Every year, millions of bees lose their lives, silently without anyone noticing. Now let me ask you this. Has a bee ever really harmed you? Maybe it stung you once or twice. But when a bee stings you, it also loses its own life. A bee does not sting to attack. It does it as a last resort. And we humans often kill bees simply because we are afraid of them. But they are small creatures, and they are the ones keeping our lives standing. So what can we do? Actually, we can do a lot. Even placing a single flower on your balcony can make a big difference. Leaving some water for these small creatures can make a big difference. Avoiding chemicals can make a big difference. And most importantly, share this information with the people you love. Because if people don't know, they won't protect bees. But if they know, they will. Let me say this as well. One day you might not find honey. But the issue is not honey. The issue is not the taste of apples, not the taste of chocolate, not the taste of coffee. The issue is the continuation of life itself. Bees may be small creatures, but the benefits they provide to life are truly incredible. And perhaps the future of the world lies in these tiny creatures. How we treat bees truly matters. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video for more content like this. Goodbye.